Tonight we have joining us Scott Barmore. Scott is incarcerated currently in the state of Missouri, and obviously I want to be able to give him the opportunity to share his story and highlight to you all exactly the journey leading up to here and how we can get involved in his fight. So Scott, thank you for joining us. If you just want to go ahead and introduce who you are, and then we can get into your story.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you and all your listeners. My name is Scott Barmore, and I am incarcerated in Missouri at Jefferson City Correctional Center. I've been in prison for the past 25 and a half years for 3 counts of first-degree robbery, and I have two 30-year sentences running wild.
Okay. No firearm charges, no aggravated charges, just first degree robbery.
Yeah, I just have 3 counts of first-degree robbery.
Let's go back before the crime in question.
I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. My mom and my dad were initially married. They divorced when I was about 3 or 4 years old. And my dad worked for a popular DJ. He was a DJ at a popular gospel radio station in Detroit. And my mom worked at the post office. I had a good childhood. My father, though, my mom ended up having a steady boyfriend for about 10 years. And I went to Catholic school. I went to a private school in Detroit for my first 8 years of school. I had never gotten in any kind of trouble. I was a real quiet kid. I liked to learn. I liked to swim, play sports. Though I did have some adversity as a child, but it wasn't really that. I have a lot of positive memories. The only thing I can remember really was bad was the neighborhood that I lived in. Sometimes I looked outside the window and I would either hear shooting or see someone getting fight or something like that. And our house was broken into several times. We had bars on the windows. It wasn't that bad to me because at the time I just saw it as this is just how life is. So I think the trauma that I experienced initially was all vicarious.
Things, I guess, start to change for you in terms of criminality and that deviant behavior.
It was actually when I was 14, the first time I got caught with a gun in high school, but I didn't even know how to use guns. My first time ever touching a gun. Me and my mom she married a preacher in 1993. She's still married to this day, and we moved to Indiana. And that's when I went to high school in Indiana. And this guy wanted to take CD change. He was next door to me. Now, CDs were big back then in the 90s. I know they're irrelevant now. Forgive me for my nostalgia. So the guy wanted this 60D changer for his car. He wanted to put it in his car, and so he had a little Pro Handle 22. And so he gave me the 22. I traded it, but I just wanted some money because I'm going to a new school and I wanted some money to buy some clothes. So my own clothes and my own choosing because my mom would have bought me some clothes, but she would have gave me some clothes of her choosing. But if I had my own money, I was going to buy my own clothes.
Yeah.
So I went to the guy. We ended up trading. I ended up taking it to the school. Another kid saw me with the gun in school, and the police were called to my classroom, and I ended up going to juvenile. What's crazy about juvenile time? When they walked into to the door, I didn't have any fear. It was like just like the age of 9, I had like this innate knowledge that this was where I was going to be. Like I had never even committed a crime, but by the age of 9 or 10 years old, I knew that incarceration was going to be a place that I was going to experience because I had seen so many other people go through this experience, right? When they closed that door, I didn't do nothing but drop down and start doing push-ups. All right. So I spent a few months in what they call pool schools, alternative school, and then they ended up letting me back into my high school. That's just before Columbine and all of that. So it wasn't really that much of a big deal getting caught with a gun in school. So they let me come right back in, and I went back to school. And that was my first time getting in trouble. My criminality really started when I was around 18 years old. And me and a friend of mine who was smoking weed and we were watching this movie, Set It Off. And we were at the same time listening to this music. He was talking about hitting licks, which means, robberies, right? And so he was just like, man, let's go rob somebody. So we went and we did it. Never did anything, never even thought about robbing anybody or anything. But I was an emerging adult, right? My prefrontal cortex wasn't fully developed, right? And so my impulsivity kicked in and my lack of logic or reasoning, none of that mattered. That rush that I got from robbing it in first person was so exhilarating that I did it again and again and again. And I didn't even need the money. It wasn't about that. It was about the pain and the anger and frustration and irritation of whatever it was that I was going through internally. I can now project it on the other people and I could see their face, their fear and uncertainty, but it was really mine that was on their face. Now I can see it. I lived through other people's pain, not knowing how to express my own.
It's interesting that you say the juvenile part didn't work in deterring you. The note that you make about it was just accepted. Like it's almost like a rite of passage. It's almost just like you said, you're just resigned to the fact that this is probably going to be part of my life. This is just the norm. And so when we talk about, they say, well, we send people to prison to try and deter crime. I think sometimes when I speak to Black men and Black women particularly, they kind of feel like, well, no matter what I do, that's where I'm going to end up. Like I could walk the straight and narrow and that's going to be part of my journey in life just because of who I am. And I think that's an incredibly important part of it, is that it almost wasn't enough to shock you into not doing it. And also hip hop and rap culture. And we know that those rappers and those hip hop artists, half of them haven't been to prison or don't do the things they actually talk about. I have a 13-year-old and he listens to these rap songs and he'll say something and I'm like, do you even know what that means? But and he's like, no, and it's like, he just thinks it's so cool because it sounds good and there's a good beat and these guys are wearing really cool clothes and driving good cars and walking around with guns, that they're almost to be idolized. I think with people like T. Grizzly and Kevin Gates are talking about the impacts of incarceration, but a lot of them don't, right? They're just talking about, excuse my French, bitches and money and drugs and cars and clothes. And so that's super valid. What then happened after those few robbery instances?
Initially, I didn't get caught. I ended up stopping for a second and I ended up going to college and things are going through for a few months because in my heart of hearts, I really wasn't a quote unquote bad person. I did a lot of bad acts. And so I tried to clean myself up or whatever. A friend of mine, he ended up calling me from jail and he was like, man, they know everything. They know everything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I panicked. I left. I came here to Missouri, dropped out of school, everything. Even though I was trying to do the right thing now, I dropped out. I'm like, I'm done because I've had that fear kick in. My amygdala sent the message to my body and said, hey, please get out of here. So I left. I came to Missouri and a week later, I got locked up for a first degree robbery and second degree robbery because now I'm here and I'm living in that state of fear. And that state of fear, like, literally caused me to do some stupid stuff. And so I ended up robbing two people. I got caught with the money, everything in the taxi cab. I had like $3,000 on me in the taxi cab. Police pulled us over. Gun pulled. I could have got shot. And the man pulling the gun out on me, I knew to have my hands up. I already know. As soon as I see the police, before he even came to the car, I had my hands up. And I ended up going to jail. But before I even made it to the jail, I confessed. I was by myself. I told him, hey, yeah, I did it. I robbed her. I robbed him. I did that. Yes, I did. And so I went to the county jail, and that's what stopped me initially. And so that was my incapacitation card. They stopped me from committing crimes. However, what are the four purposes for incarceration? Is deterrence, incapacitation, retribution, and rehabilitation. So the rehabilitation, it never touched me because when they locked me up, they put me in a pod with all other traumatized men and pain and, because that's all jails and prisons are anyway. They're just trauma units. Nobody to guide us and help us to understand who we are and what we were doing. Not that I was not a bad person, but I embraced that I was a bad person at that point. but I ended up getting out.
So was that just jail? That wasn't prison?
No, I only made it to jail. So I ended up getting out on bond. My mother actually put up the house that I was born in. Right, she put that house up in Detroit to get me out and to
Right.
get me a lawyer. And so I ended up getting 150 hours community service, 5 years intensive supervision, work release, and 10 and a 5-year backup if I violated my probation.
So you get out on
Right.
bond, you're out doing your community service, I assume, and doing what you need to do. And so what happens then?
I tell myself I'm going to get on the straight and narrow. I end up getting a job, TNT, go to real estate school. I graduate from real estate school, but I did not receive my real estate license because I didn't have focus because I was using drugs. I was using cocaine. I was using various types of pills, alcohol, marijuana, just about anything. I was a poly addict. And so
Was this like a recreational thing? Was this something that now you look back, you were trying to like dumb out trauma? What do you think was your motivation?
I think what I was doing is I think I was trying to feel safe. I think that drug use, I was at a point where I did not feel emotionally safe. I didn't feel secure, and drugs, I didn't really see what it was doing and how I was spiraling out of control mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I was using it as my security blanket.
And maybe that those substances, and correct me if I'm wrong, but those, like you said, a safety net, like it was something that you could control that was consistent. Even though it was negatively consistent, it was in your control and it was reliable. You knew what to expect.
Yeah.
It delivered what it delivered. And so you knew that you could always rely on that high.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you were only just 18. Had you turned 18 at this point yet?
By the time I got out, I was 19.
So you didn't get your real estate license. You're at AT&T, but you're using. And so what part did that play in what happened next?
We played a major role in what happened next. So I only had a few months left of freedom, and I've been there since. I had a partner, my girlfriend, and she also used, and it was a toxic relationship. And there was emotional and verbal abuse, nothing ever physical or either of us. One time she threw a phone in my head. As a matter of fact, it was the night that we got into it. So we got into an argument, and it was like really big argument. And, she threw a phone in my head, hit me in the head, and I just punched 2 holes in her wall, in her closet door wall, and ran out. Police were called, and that's when I became a suspect for why I'm in prison now. So after the domestic disturbance, they almost immediately arrested her because she had forgery charges. So they took her to the police station, and while she was at the police station, they discussed with her about the forgery. And then when she started describing me, they began to ask her questions about robberies, about her car, did I have access to her car, and they showed her a video, and they also asked her if she would say that I had something to do with the robberies in order for her to, like they threatened her. You'll take your daughter, you'll lose your apartment, your car, everything that you have will be gone. So she ended up writing a 2-page statement. Not saying that I was involved in the robberies, but she was saying that the person that they saw in the video looked like it could have been me. Years later, probably in 2015, she filed an affidavit with an investigator saying that she was coerced into making those statements because she feared getting in trouble with the law and things like that. So I left and the apartment that night. I had went to a friend's house. My father paged me, the 90s pages sort of thing, right? So my father paged me And he was like, call me. So I called him, and he was like, man, a bunch of police officers came to my house, and they looking for you. So initially, I'm thinking like, okay, so they must be looking for me for the domestic dispute. And if you get arrested and you're on probation, then you're gonna do jail time. How
Mhm.
it goes, whether you're found guilty or not guilty, you have to fight the fact that you should not go to jail. I went on the run. I went to Indiana and I visited my mother. I stayed with my mom for I don't know, maybe about a month or so. And then on January 11th, I decided like, okay, I'm about to go ahead and leave and go back to Missouri. I'm gonna just be all the way honest. Y2K was like real big back then. People were thinking that when the year 2000 comes, that all of the computers are going to shut down and everything's going to break, everything's going to be messed up. That's why I was on the run. I'm like, okay, if I stay gone long enough, then the computers, everything's going to be messed up, and maybe they'll forget about
You'll
this
just
stuff.
get away with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the probation violation, like I'm gonna be cool, but that
Uh-huh.
didn't happen. So when January 11th came, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn myself in. Obviously, I'm gonna have to do 10 years and 5 years because that was my backup on my robbery. And when I got locked up and I ended up going into the city jail and they fingerprinted me, I saw it said like robbery first, robbery first. I guess they don't. I don't think they do it anymore, but how they did me at that time, they kept fingerprint me on different robbery first cards, and I'm like, what are they doing? What is this? So I asked them, like, yeah, that's what you are in here for. I like panicked. I'm like, there's no way. I end up getting interrogated by the police officers for probably about 2 hours. I kept giving them the same answers. I don't know anything about what you're talking about. This is where I was
Mhm.
at that time. I can't remember where I was at that time because the robberies they were asking me about happened 7 months prior, 9 months prior, 5 months
Right.
prior, 3 months prior. Now, I'll be honest about my situation then. I was 19, 20 years old at the time. I used cocaine. I lived a fast life.
Mhm.
I drank
Mhm.
alcohol, marijuana, and so I wouldn't remember it anyway. They said it's going to be a lineup the next day. So I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
a physical lineup. I'm like, look, I need a lawyer. And they told me
Mhm.
your lawyer can't come to the lineup. I ended that interrogation with that statement, I want a lawyer. And
Mhm.
so after I ended the interrogation, that's when they told me, okay, well, interrogation's over, and you're going to have a physical lineup tomorrow. So I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want to show up without a lawyer present. So they told me
Mhm.
lawyers are not present at lineup, blah, blah, blah. So the next day, I was basically compelled to show up at this lineup. So this is where the real interesting part comes. So
Mhm.
the people who got robbed said that the person who robbed them had an African American slang. So my lineup consisted of four foreign exchange students from St.
Mhm.
Kitts, Jamaica. So they gave us these cards to read that apparently the robber said during the robbery. And some of them
Mhm.
said, give me the money, don't push any buttons, don't do anything stupid. So I read it. First, number one reads it. I'm number two. The first guy
Mhm.
reads it. He reads it. Give me the money, man. Don't do anything
Wow.
stupid. So I read it. Give me the money, man. Don't do anything stupid. In my American, African American slang. The next person,
Oh, yeah.
put your hands up, what's the blood clot? I don't want to see you do anything, man. And
Right.
then the fourth person and the fifth person, they're all the same. All of these guys were foreign exchange students from a track team. But the person who robbed these people had African American slang. So this is what
Mhm.
they cleverly did. Police detectives in my case, they went to Lindenwood University. The dean of students at that time was a former police detective. So they're
Mhm.
basically going to their former colleague saying, hey, we need some people in the lineup that fit this lineup
Mhm.
because we can't find any black people anywhere else except these foreigners. Hey, how about those guys that's on the track team that come from
Right.
St. Kitts? Like, why did you choose to go get those guys from your colleague who used to be a detective with you, like one of your partners? Did my lineup, I think, had 6 people view the
Mhm.
lineup, and out of those 6, I was chosen by 2. So then, the next day after that, they did another lineup, but this time it was a photo lineup. Now, this guy who got robbed said that the person who robbed him was between the heights. Now, please follow me on this one, right? He was between the heights of 6'1" and 6'4". I am 6'4". All of the there were 6 people in my photo lineup. All of these men in the photo lineup, I promise you, were between the heights of 5'2" and 5'6". So there was one 5'2" man, two 5'3" men, one 5'4" man, and a 5'6" man, and me, 6'4". Now I'm
Right.
wondering, like, where did they find all these short black men? Right? So
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, any mini mighty mo wouldn't have picked all of these short black men. So I'm like
Yeah.
flabbergasted when I see my police report and I see the identifying information on there and I see all of these short people. And y'all said the man said to the person who robbed him, there's no other identifying information about the man. Everything else was that he was 6'1" to 6'4", and everything else on the statement was he had dark clothes, medium build. That's the only other identifying thing that he said about his physical description. Medium build, and everything else was about the clothes that the guy wore.
Mm.
Inevitably, I was chosen as the robber in that case as well. So now I have
Mm.
3 first-degree robbery charges that are on me. And the evidence that they used was those eyewitness statements, the statement from my ex-girlfriend, and they went to my father's house, whom I did not live with, and they found an old, rusted, inoperable gun,
Mm.
and they went and fingerprinted it. I have the fingerprint analysis, and when they applied the fingerprints on the gun, there was one fingerprint on it. That one fingerprint that they found on it was a detective's fingerprint. A detective's
Mm.
fingerprint. And St. Charles County is predominantly white. At that time, it was really white. Their police force
Mhm.
is probably like 95% white. And the
Mhm.
one fingerprint they found in that gun was a black detective. I say, man, I
Mm.
wonder if he's the robber. Right?
Yeah.
I was given a public defender.
Mm.
Because at the time, my family nor I had the money to pay the fees that the lawyers had wanted. They wanted $15,000 and up to represent me. So I had to go to court with the public, what we used to call public pretenders. Right? And so I went to court with a public defender. And we never got
And
along from day
so
one.
you went to trial, right? Like you didn't plead at all.
No, I absolutely did not plead to
Mhm.
robberies that I did.
So
Like I
what
told
was
you,
your plea offer?
my first offer was 4 life sentences to run concurrent.
Okay.
And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, man, like, even if I did commit these crimes, right? So my second offer was 25 years. And it's funny because
Mhm.
I'm in my 25th year now. But I turned both of them down. I'm like, no, I didn't do it. I'm not doing that. And at the
Right.
time, I had thought I was only going to get 10 years for my probation violation because the agreement
Mm.
that I signed said that I would get 10 and 5. But the judge said I don't have to adhere to that. You get 20 and 10. So the judge gave me 20 and 10. And Missouri has the 85% rule, 85% law, so you have to do 85% of all your sentences.
With good time?
So there is no good time as of now. They're trying to pass bills. It just didn't make it this term.
So in Missouri, is robbery considered a violent crime in classification? First degree?
Yes, first degree is yeah, it's definitely a violent
Okay.
crime.
So
It's a
if a
dangerous
good time
felony
bill
is what
was
they
to
call it.
pass, would that good time apply to violent offenders as well?
Yes,
Okay.
there's actually a statement in there that says that's what they want to do, and they wanted to apply even to guys who have life sentences. And so my trial was very interesting. So here they have 50 people on the bar, right? 50 candidates that they choose from the county.
Uh-huh.
And so in one of them, out of the 50, there was one black person. And
Uh,
that black person was preemptively struck by the prosecution. You know, they
uh.
give a preemptive strike. So you can just strike somebody for whatever you want to say. Just, I don't want that person.
Yeah. So for
And
whoever doesn't know, I think there's 3 from memory, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the prosecution and the defense
oh,
each
yeah.
get 3 preemptive strikes based
Okay.
on nothing other than I just don't want them. So the fact that they struck the only Black person representative of
Right.
the jury is, yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but yeah.
So it happened in the first trial,
Mm.
and the trial was 12 and alternate jurors, so 13 whites who were middle class, so not a jury of my peers. I
Right.
was a 20-year-old, what they call poor class at the time. So I was found guilty. Went to the next trial with the same attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So we never spoke. We never had any meetings. She didn't come visit me. None of that. No. So yeah. So I was found guilty. And the next one, the next trial, the Vars wire, I had one black guy in there, and he was struck, but we talked to him, asked him a question. He said that his brother was actually incarcerated. Um, and he said that my brother did some robbery and he need to be where he is. He did that, and that's where he needs to be. He didn't get done wrong by the system or none of that. They struck him. I said, dang, he was saying his brother got what he deserved. Like, y'all still struck him? Right.
Right.
The way he looked determined whether he was going to stay or go, I believe. Went to trial, and I found guilty again, and the judge gave me my first trial 30 years, and 30 years running wild. So that means 30 years. I'm doing the first 30 years, and when I get done with this 30, I have to start the next 30. And then the next trial, I got another 30 years, 85%. All right, on all of them. But that was running concurrent, right? So it's like I have two 30s, and it's like I have 60 years.
Right.
My first parole date is on my 70th.
So what did your appeal process look like?
So I was not even when I filed my appeal. Of course, I got denied on everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I had a fair hearing to find out if I should go back for a retrial, see if my girlfriend, but she would not testify. Even
Mm-hmm.
in my preliminary hearing, she just didn't want to have anything to do with them. She feared retaliation by police officers. She just wanted to be left alone. So that preliminary hearing was denied based on that fact. I was procedurally barred from filing because I was late, and I was only late because when I was about 22 years old, I had gotten into it with the COs. A CO lied on me in a violation, and I got angry about it, and I started like trying to explain myself, and the other officer was like, "Calm down," so I calmed down, and then I'm like, "Man, he lying," and I got amped up again. And he was like, "Calm down, or you're gonna be giving your statement from two house," and like right then I kind of like flipped out, like two houses the whole. Man, what? Man, you're not gonna threaten me with that? Fuck two house, fuck you, and I ended up going to the hole. And when I went to the hole, well, they put me in handcuffs and then they sprayed me with mace, right? And after I was in the handcuffs, and they took me to the hole. When they took me to the hole, I had a deadline that was due in like about a month. I never
Mm-hmm.
got my legal work. I was done with it. I literally was ready to put my stuff in the mail, and I never received my paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
I got procedurally barred for being late, and so since being procedurally barred, that harms you like for the rest of your appeal process,
Right.
unless you prove manifest injustice and that I was hindered in some way. Which saying I have letters from the property room with their stamp on it, showing that I did not have my legal work and that I was requesting it, and they would not give it to me. Like I have all of that evidence. So if I ever need it in order to file to overcome that procedural default rule, I can. But so I've been procedurally barred for so no court, no higher court has really heard my claims.
Right.
So it's the process that I'm in now. I really need representation so that I can have someone. Cause I have a lawyer, but the
Mm-hmm.
lawyer that I have is like pushing for me. Like we gave this man $3,000. He hasn't done anything to help me. Like literally nothing. He hasn't filed any paperwork. He hasn't done anything. So we paid him this money and nothing.
What options do you have in Missouri in terms of post-conviction remedies that you can pursue now?
So have the option of filing a federal habeas corpus.
Mhm.
So that's the option that I'm holding till I'm ready. I have my claims. I have everything ready to go. I just really need the right people that's gonna really push for me. And so that's what I've been searching for. I've had the Innocence Project work on my
Mhm.
case. They worked on
Mhm.
my case for like 2 years, and I was frustrated, and they kept putting me off. Other cases are more important. These death row cases, like high-profile cases, because I just have robberies. My case is not sensational. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they passed me to this other organization called Paulie Wilson Project in Kansas, and they're good people. Both
Mhm.
organizations, they're good people. And the Paulie Wilson Project, they come and I'll meet with students. So I meet with one set of students, and I have to explain to these two students what my case is. Then I meet
Mhm.
another two set of students after their semester's over, and I just kept meeting students. After about the fourth set of students, I was frustrated. I'm like, listen, I don't want to just keep starting over. I feel like we're not going anywhere. We're going in circles.
Right.
So I hired representation, thinking that if I pay somebody, maybe something will happen. And nothing has happened. I've had this same attorney probably about 7 years.
Mhm.
All investigators work on my case.
Mhm.
Like top investigators in the state
Mhm.
work on my case. It's a law firm. It's an international law firm called Brian Cave, and I've had them work on my case pro bono. And people seem excited when they first start, but I think what is difficult is proving my innocence because proving my guilt
Mhm.
seemed simple, but it was like nothing. There was lack of evidence to prove my guilt, but they accomplished their goal. And so now proving my innocence is like, okay, how do we prove someone did not do something when we don't really have any type of evidence? So it's just been difficult.
Yeah, I think it's it's key, like especially, if there's no DNA, and it's okay, you've been found guilty. So now the onus is on you to prove
Right.
innocence rather than the onus being on the prosecutor to provide evidence to support a conviction. It's now almost doubly as hard because you have to kind of battle against a conviction. Like they see a conviction as you did it. And so there's so much weight on that that you almost have to come with all of this extra over and above. And it's like, okay, but what do you want? Obviously, this ex girlfriend of yours doesn't want anything to do with it. And even then, redacted testimony. I mean, I don't know about Missouri, but redacted testimony, from what I've heard, doesn't hold a great deal of weight. Like it's not enough on its own to carry. And obviously she's got fear and rightly so, right? If what she said was correct, that the coercion was uh, done out of fear itself. And so why wouldn't she think that, that was going to be the case if she redacted that? And so where do you start to argue? Like where do you start to pick apart the issues with procedural, whether it's procedural, the issues with the lineup or whatever it might be, in terms of what was done and how it was, whether it was investigatory misconduct or whatever it might be. Talk to me about, although you're fighting for your freedom and your exoneration, what incarceration has looked like for you and the part it's played in your life.
So when I first came to prison, like you said, I was 20 years old. I was an emerging adult. I was not fully developed in my understanding about life, socially, biologically, like emotionally, even
Mhm.
physically. I grew a beard and a goatee in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mhm.
literally grew up in this place. I've been in prison longer than I've been when I came. I had no direction. I had no purpose. I didn't understand who I was, or I didn't get the world. I was lost. I was misunderstood. I was traumatized. I didn't know anything, man. I was real up, and I thought I knew a lot.
Mhm.
And so my incarceration could have went a lot different. It could have turned me into a monster because I've seen it. It could have turned me into someone who has no morals
Mm.
someone who doesn't care about anyone else. However, for me, being in prison when I came, I spent years in a death row prison when I
Mm.
first came to. I had four men who were on death row within a very serious place. And being so young and seeing like people that I know that I had got close to get taken away, and next time I see them, it's on the news saying that they were killed at 12 o'clock at night. Midnight,
Mm.
it does something to
Yeah.
you. And luckily, I had older guys. To me, they were older. You know, they were in their 30s. They were old.
Yeah. The
They
old
lived a
heads.
little. But, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
they
call
old
them
heads.
old heads. Yes.
Yeah, they old heads. Right.
Yeah.
And so luckily, they embraced me.
Yeah.
And they saw something in me. They were like, yo, bro, come here.
Mm-hmm.
Take this book. Make this how you should do your time. Jail like this. Don't do that. Don't get involved in this. Don't get involved in that. Have direction and purpose. What do you want to do? Who are you? And started asking me all of these questions about myself, walking on the track and exercising with me and taking me to the library and opening up the dictionary and asking me to see, giving me homework and books. And I used to come back
Mm.
with bags of canteen and they like, you keep finding all of this food. Where your books at? What's your library look like? Right? I'm
Mm.
like, dang, library look like? I'm gonna get the books from you. I
You're like,
like
man,
that.
I'm just hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry, man. Nah, I'm still growing. Like, I'm trying to eat. What are you talking about a library? I go to the library and up there, they got a library with
Mm.
different books. The
Yeah.
books that they were giving me were books that were actually causing introspection, causing me
Mm-hmm.
to look deep within myself. And I was blessed to have those men. And I still remember them to this day. And every one of those guys who were helping me and saved me, they're free right now. And they are on the streets and they're very successful. Every one of them. There's three
Amazing.
who are, and all three of them are doing very good. One of them is a
Mm.
multimillionaire. Another one travels around. He's Muslim. Another guy's a Muslim, and he travels around and he speaks. Right. And
Mm.
another guy is in Missouri and he works in the. Actually, he works, does things for the governor, state
Mm-hmm.
capitol. Like he's really involved in prison reform and stuff like that. So prison for me did not look like I saw how it looked for other people. So I embraced that information and knowledge because things that I saw in those books were the same thing that my mother was telling me. Because my mother
Mm-hmm.
used to give me books when I was coming up. She used to say, "Here, read this book," and I would read these books. Only my problem was I didn't understand them. So I always tell people there are three levels to knowing the truth. First, you learn it, right? Slash remember it, right? The second
Mm-hmm.
step is you see how do I process that information? How does it fit
Mm-hmm.
into my life? Where does that information go into my life? Where do I put it? How does it make sense for me? And the
Mm-hmm.
last thing is live it. So if you go those steps, right, that is how you know the truth, right? And
Yeah.
so I didn't do that when I was coming up. All I was doing was getting the rope part. I was just remembering, and I didn't understand how the process and then the walking it, living it, right?
Well, sometimes you can't walk it and live it until the opportunity comes, right? Like you
Yeah.
could read a book and I could read the same book. And we're going to, I may not be able to take what's in that book because maybe never, or maybe not in 10 years or 15 years, because I haven't come across a situation where I've been able to apply it. And so maybe, your mom had all the good intentions, but because you hadn't been faced with an environment or a circumstance where you could apply those things, it was kind of just like the brain doesn't hold on to it because it's not relevant. So the brain goes, okay, I'm going to keep what I need to survive, and everything else just goes out like a paper shredder.
Right. Have you ever
Mhm.
heard this saying, we don't see things as they are, we see
R
things as we are? I spend almost every waking moment without exception of the time that I decompress, time that I,
Mhm.
might play a video game or I might
Yep.
relax and watch a little nonsense TV like
Days of Our Lives.
Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Huh?
I knew you were gonna say something like that. Housewives of Atlanta,
Yeah,
The
yeah, that's my little stuff.
Chrisleys, Teen
Yeah,
Mom.
stuff that I could just say, man, these people crazy. But outside of that time that I do those things, like majority of my time is spent actually giving back. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the 12-step program, AA, and the 12 step is the principle is service, right? So
Yep.
basically giving back to those who are where you once were. And so
Yep.
that's what I do. Most of my I'm not perfect in my deeds, right? The
Mhm.
majority of the time that I am walking around and talking, I am talking with someone or about someone or studying for someone else because I remember what those men did for me, right?
Mhm.
And I'm going to do the same thing for those young guys. There's a guy right here in this wing with me. Is 18 years, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't know anything, right? But he's so embracing with, hey, brother, want to hug and talk, and
Yeah.
he's just so open. But he's been through a lot. You can see it when you see his
Yeah.
arm. He was a cutter. You can see it when you hear his stories about the foster care system, and things like that, right? I try to get back to people like him because I
Yeah.
know if I can teach him and reach him, that
Yeah.
so every day that is what I do from working in restorative justice here or working in a reentry center here. Those things that I do are not only for me because I will be honest about it. The truth is that I want to come home and I hope that the things that I do will cause someone to say, hey man, this man does not belong in prison. Right?
Right.
Because I am consistent with it. It is not something that I just started. I have shown a consistent pattern of moral law abiding behavior. And so
Mhm.
someone can see this. Like he has been more nonviolent and more peaceful and more helping in his life. We can see it on the record.
Yeah.
And so I do want to do that because I believe that prison is a trauma unit and it's also a recovery unit. Like most of us who are in here have been traumatized. So when you come here, if you made mistakes when you were free, you come here and you work on yourself. You get yourself together, you learn, you develop, you grow, and you teach those people who are behind you and you pave the way for yourself in preparation to getting out.
Mhm.
Right? That's all supposed to be doing, preparing to go home. Right?
Yeah.
Preparing to stay here for the next 30, 40 years. Right? So we can look at different, what is the prison?
Norway.
Shoot, I can't, huh?
Norway.
Yeah, yeah. Like we
Yeah.
can look at it. So they're trying those systems here in Missouri.
Mhm.
Norway, they're trying it here. They have it
Mhm.
where they have couches and one man
Yeah.
rooms and doors never lock. And,
They wash their own laundry. They do their own stuff, and it's like a
right.
community.
And they're trying that here. They're literally starting that.
I
So
love
like
that.
right now, where I am, they're trying to like turn this whole prison into that. They're moving us around from house to house and they're trying to figure out. They call it Dynamo program. They
Okay.
so it started in Bowling Green.
Yeah.
I was actually in Bowling Green in 2000, but it started in it's Northeast Correctional Center, but it's a long waiting list for people to get in.
I bet.
And
But that's a positive thing as well because it means that a lot of people qualify, right? Like I'm sure there's very stringent qualification markers that you have to
oh
meet,
yeah,
like charge free and no attempts at violence against correctional officers. And that's a
yeah.
positive thing.
So
Hmm.
the wing I'm in is not that bad. So there's four wings in each housing unit,
Hmm.
72 people in each wing. So there's 288 people in each housing unit, right? So in C wing, right, is where they keep the guys who just came out of the hole. They're quote unquote troublemakers and people they like to lock down all day, right? And so that's where we hold classes at. I have two classes. What happened to me and tips. Tips I
Hmm.
teach in the trauma informed practices I teach in the reentry center. This class I teach in the housing unit. And I would not be able to reach these young guys. So for my individual case, I would like
Okay.
to go on change.org and sign that petition and share that with. I would also
Okay.
like people to go on my Facebook page and see all of the content that's on there and share those things with other people and to
Yeah.
just become more aware. And it's not
Hmm.
only about me. Like there are many other men and women who are faced with the same
Hmm.
situation. But in my case, in my situation, that is what I think people can do is to
Yeah.
support me by becoming more aware. And I'm going to constantly have more things that's going to be on Facebook. It's going
Hmm.
to be ever evolving. I'm going to keep having my voice on there, keep having posts, things to do. So the governor of Missouri told the parole board that he wants them to basically reconstruct the parole how they people are eligible for parole and things like that. So he has what he calls a working group, right? And if people go on mojustice.org and go on there, there are three things that the governor is interested in having them look at, and that is consecutive sentences, violent crime, and life without sentences. And so, what I would like people to do also, in addition to going on my individual things, is to go on there and support that working group and tell them that they support that change in consecutive sentences.
Will it be
Because
retroactive?
to be yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, because
Okay.
things in Missouri have always that's how it's always worked in the state, like juvenile law, when they just
So,
changed that juvenile and raised the juvenile age up, all of them got. But as of this moment, just supporting me by going online and remaining
mhm,
active and
yeah,
watching this change, because I'm gonna tell you something. That I know what the law says. I know what I have different papers. I have so much paperwork that says how much time I'm going to do. I've been
mhm,
told by judges and prosecutors and parole boards and my peers, caseworkers, people told
mhm,
me the sentence that I have, and I know, right? I've
mhm,
seen it on paper,
mhm.
right? But I know for a fact
Right.
that's not my destiny. That's
Yeah.
that's not my destiny. Because I really
Yeah.
believe this is like my calling, my word. Because when I work with
Yeah.
these guys, I feel it. Like I touch them, they touch me. This is like very good work, and I want to pass this
Yeah.
on to other people. Right? I'm not.
People are aware that they've got trauma, but they just sit there and they go, well, this
Yeah.
is what happened to me. And they don't see how it connects to everything that they do after
Right.
that.
What is a big deal for me is I'm learning that vicarious trauma, like we just talked about, I want to end up
Hmm.
having begin something where we have like maybe like once a month we have family members come up here and are visiting and we discuss trauma, vicarious trauma with them, right? Because they've been
Yeah.
affected, mothers, children,
Hmm.
girlfriends, wives, fathers, sons, right? They've been affected
Yeah.
by this vicariously, right? They have secondary
Hmm.
trauma. They're going through this, right? So that is
Yeah.
something else that I want to. I'm very serious about. So this is something that is a passion of mine. And if you can assist me in any way with that, I don't believe in coincidences,
Okay.
and I believe that it's meant for a reason. And this could be
Okay.
that
Yeah.
first brought us together for not just for me, but for us as a whole, right? People,
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely. I
right.
agree.
So
I
it's so
agree.
much bigger. It's so much bigger, right? We don't have to be a superstar. People know who we are to make massive change.